Welcome to the Real Advisor Podcast. TRAP, TRAP. Please follow us and join in the conversation on Twitter @Advisor Podcast, where you can suggest ideas and themes you'd like the TRAP team to discuss. Also remember to like and subscribe to our YouTube channel and leave a 6 out of 5-star review on iTunes. Doing all this really helps us, which means we can do more to help you. Now let's head over to the studio for the latest pile of TRAP.
Yes, indeed, dear Trappists. Welcome back to what many people are calling episode 35 of the Real Advisor Podcast, TRAP, TRAP. My name is Lick Ninken, and joining me as ever in the digital studio of doom are the three other horsemen of the apocalypse. Alan, the storyteller Smith, Carl, the voice widger, and Andy, Ultra Heart. Now, gentlemen, we have a show packed full of absolutely nothing. So let's start unpacking it straight away with some more high-energy review reads from my good friend, Mr. Andrew Hart.
Thank you, Nick. Merry Christmas, everybody. Okay, first review is entitled Just What I Needed by John J. 5 stars. Amazing podcast, and the banter between the group makes it feel like relaxed, like you're listening to a chat in a local pub. I started my business late last year so that I could provide full-fat financial planning with factor-based investing. So the insights into the experiences of all on the podcast has been invaluable. Final review is from Kelly K. Her username is UK Kelly, entitled 5 stars. My friend and colleague recommended your show. After advising for nearly 22 years, I wanted to let you know that I find the show really helpful, invigorating, plus it makes me chuckle, which is an added bonus. Love the collaboration and the dynamics between the team. Keep up the great work. Back to you, boss.
Great stuff. Thanks, Andy. Thank you, John and Kelly. Really do appreciate these reviews. Do keep them coming on in. Okay, let's go over to topical tidbits and put a sort of timestamp on this episode, on episode 35 of Trap. And we'll lead off with you, Mr. Smith, the Langcat thing.
Well, first of all, yes, Merry Christmas to all our listeners and supporters. Thank you very much to my fellow Trap Pack. We agreed that we would appear on this show. For those of you watching on YouTube, fully decked out in our festive gear, and I'm the only one who bloody did it. Oh, Mr. Hart, he's got a hat, a little hat, no expense spent. Well done. At least Carl's got a Christmas tree. Do you celebrate Christmas in your home, Nicholas?
We are aware of the date.
All right. Well, happy Christmas, everyone. Let me kick off.
Turkey or beef, Nick?
Beef. I mean, but anything but turkey. There's a reason you only have Brussels sprouts and turkey once a year. It's because they're bloody awful. So anything but turkey.
Right, back on with the show. Topical tidbits. Another industry report, this time from our friends at the Langcat in association with Royal London. Royal London, according to their website, are the largest mutual insurance company in the UK, I suppose, because all the rest of them have kind of gone or demutualized. But anyway, they're still a big operation. We don't have much of a relationship with them, but they seem to still be doing some interesting things. So, Royal London hired the Langcat to do a report, to create a report, do some research, speak to clients and customers of advisors, speak to advisors, and they've got what is called the inaugural The Meaning of Value report. Obviously, this is a follow-up to Consumer Duty, which came in, and this whole big ongoing debate around value for money. I thought it was quite interesting. It's 34 pages long, and there are some interesting parts of it that are worth reviewing. First ones are a bit obvious. 45% of consumers define value as a combination of getting value for money and getting their money's worth. Way!
Just meaningless.
But 16% define it as price, which again I think is pretty obvious too, as it's not just about price. So a relatively small number consider it just only about price. Advisors believe that clients value peace of mind. 66%, 2/3 of advisors believe that their clients value peace of mind most, then helping them reach their financial goals, and then clear communication. Now, the interesting point, perhaps the most interesting point of the whole report, I would still recommend you have a read through, or at least browse through it. There are some useful tidbits within it. But The thing that I don't think is particularly well acknowledged by a number of advisors, and I'll put our hands up here as well, is that quite a large number, at least 50% of consumers who paid for investment advice say that it is the most important thing for the investment returns. Positive investment returns are the most important aspect of how they determine value for money. And we might have mentioned this in the podcast before. It's certainly a theme that's come up in our firm over the last year or two, in that we kind of almost have felt that the investment piece was a battle we've already won. We know how to invest capital wisely, and we've probably been less kind of vocal about investment returns, how you construct investment portfolios, how you optimize, how you maximize, etc. Because we've all evolved much more to the kind of the planning, the strategy, the delivering good outcomes for clients from a kind of lifestyle or a full fat financial planning basis. So interesting, this report. Can't remember how many people, but it's a reasonable number of consumers who are clients of financial advisors have said that their single most important determinant of value is positive investment returns. Useful reminder for all of us as we think about our client comms next year. Mr. Hart.
Really good point, Alan. Thanks for sharing that. I would echo.
Very good point.
Very good point.
What a point.
I think when people get into financial planning, they get too into it, and sometimes can become a bit too evangelical. And you're right. In an initial meeting with the client, you say, "Oh, the investments, that's easy. We'll deal with that later on. We've just got a cheap, low-cost portfolio that fixes that problem," and they push it to the side. I've probably made that mistake a few times in the past. So now it is their life savings. It is a central thing. The investment piece is massively important. So I do put it, front and center, and then just to see their appetite of how much they want to speak about it. So that is a note of warning to younger advisors that come through, that once they realize that you're right, the investment journey has been, or the investment battle has been won, like we sort of know the answer to it, but still have it front and center. It is their life savings, and they are seeking advice around that. I mean, me and Carl have spoken about this over the years. What do you call yourself? Do you call yourself a financial planner, financial advisor, or investment advisor? I think a lot of people are actually looking for investment advisors. Nobody's looking for a financial planner. Quite a few people are looking for a financial advisor. So meet the clients where they are. If we've got to play some kind of game to attract more clients, then give them the good stuff, so be it. This is a sales profession. Anyone else?
Yeah, I meet them where they're at, and then bring them through the process. But I think it's really, really good points, and certainly something we've it's funny when you start out and you're very evangelical about the whole financial planning process. It's like, it's all about the planning, and exactly Alan and Andy and myself have had this conversation in the last probably 18 months. It's like, we need to start talking a little bit more. We need to focus a little bit more on the investment. So I think it's, very well made points. And I think learning for everybody, certainly.
Okay, good stuff. Thank you very much. Very good point from you, Andy, as well. Really, really good point. Strong, like that. Very good. Wodge.
Thank you, Nick. Thank you. Thank you for showing up today. I really appreciate it.
Hey, mate, thank you just for being in my life. Carl, market bounce.
The market bounce. We should say, right? So we've got maybe some feedback that we're getting a little bit too touchy with each other. So we're having the kumbaya moments today. It's Christmas time after all. So we're all going to be so nice to each other and so respectful towards each other.
Let's see how long this lasts.
Give it 18 minutes.
Yeah. I can't see it lasting to the end of this.
The minute
you can't see my legs shaking under this table.
Yeah. The minute the record button goes off, it's we're never doing that again. Anyway, yes, the market bounce has been fantastic. A little Christmas present for all of our clients who maybe were getting a little bit worried. God knows, who knows when this is going to end, but there has been a nice little rally. Of course, all the predictions are going to be due out in the next little while, and you'll open your newspapers on 1st of January and you'll have loads of people telling you they know what's going to happen next and their predictions for the market.
Bullshit.
Correct. They are totally and utterly pointless, of course, but it is very nice to finally be delivering lots of good news. And those of us who have portfolios that are tilted towards small caps are getting an even extra little bounce at the moment. So it is really, really good. And look, do you know what? It's actually lovely to reward clients who have been sticking with the plan, just sitting on their hands, looking out the window, and now they're going to get the benefit of doing exactly that. So let's enjoy it while we have it. And we're never going to predict what's going to happen next, but it's nice. And thank you for that little Christmas present, the markets.
Mr. Hart.
By the time this show launches, we might have hit a new all-time high on the S&P 500. We're about a percentage away from it. So yeah, hopefully that happens, and then who knows where we're going for next year. But yeah, all the predictions will come in, and obviously some of them will be right and most of them will be wrong. But yeah, ignore basically.
Smithy.
Yeah, it is nice when our kind of buy and hold, stick to the plan, stick to the program comes to. I mean, we're not. Markets go up, markets go down. But the most challenging thing in the last couple of years is markets have gone sideways, and that's kind of almost the worst version. When markets,
we've talked about that, haven't we? We've talked about how that's actually hard. That's really hard.
Markets go down. Future anticipated returns, future expected returns are just higher. If you go down 20%, you just know long-term reversion to mean, etc. I'm terrible for, I think you do this as well, Nick. I see newspaper articles and I just clip them out and I save them for future reference.
Yeah.
And this is another one. So there's one about a year ago, which I'll probably share later. Just Citywire magazine, they're looking at, active investment managers. And the headlines, I can't remember exactly what it says, along the lines of, this is a year ago, fears of impending recession frighten asset managers out of equities. So holding bonds and cash is what a lot of active managers have chosen to do. And as Andy says, we're about to hit, if we haven't done by the time this goes out, but we're thereabouts. What's the S&P's up over 20%? I think not that that's the only index in the world, but it is sort of half the more.
Well, it's the biggest one, isn't it? Really, it's the proxy for the global stock market. Yeah.
It is. They're up hugely, but so all these, a significant number of active managers have kind of dialed down their equity exposure a year ago. Probably exactly the wrong time to do it. It's just another, as what's the phrase? What's the Nick Murray? Humans are a failed investor.
Human nature is a failed
investor.
Yeah.
The S&P 500 year to date is up 22%. The last market high we hit was on the 3rd of January 2022. It's almost like a pure 2-year slice, which is quite interesting. Again, it's all just meaningless really at the end of the day, but yeah, good news for our historical investors that have stuck with the plan throughout these sideways markets.
Okay. And
great point, Andrew. Well done. And great point, Alan.
Yeah, thanks for bringing that up, Carl. That's added a lot to the show. Thank you.
All right, enough now. It's
too much.
I'm done with it. I don't like any of you.
Zip it. Keep it quiet.
Talking of things bouncing, Bitcoin, Mr. Smith. I'm going to give you
this is one. You've got to keep smiling. All of you keep smiling and nodding and supporting me through this conversation. It's just so the market, as you say, S&P's up 22%, Bitcoin's up nearly 200%, 160% last time I looked. This year alone, 150% this year alone. I've had a couple of conversations now. Look, we all agree. Bitcoin, and specifically Bitcoin, not other crypto. Bitcoin, but it's not a traditional investment. It doesn't have assets. It doesn't produce yield. It's not a real asset. It's a gamble. It's a speculation. We know that. It's effectively a digital currency. Digital gold, digital currency. But I've had a couple of conversations with, smart clients this year. And they're saying, would there be any sort of damage in me holding 1%? Specifically, they said 1% of my assets. I just buy a couple of Bitcoins. What's the Bitcoin now? $40,000, $25,000?
$41,000, yeah.
Don't know.
Okay. So owning 2 or 3 Bitcoins, how terrible is that? And I'm not against it as a thought experiment, as an idea, on the basis it fundamentally contradicts our core investment philosophy. But in the same way as we've talked about before, you got your family fortress and you got your investment playpen. Chuck it in the investment playpen. If it goes to 0, it's not going to kill you. If it does do 10 times, 100 times, 1,000 times the next 10 years, you'll probably be quite glad you did it. Any thoughts on that, Andy? You've always had a vague interest in.
Yeah, I mean,
Bitcoin?
I kept an eye on this obviously because our clients are getting involved in it. I think more people own cryptocurrency than a pension in the UK. Something like 64% of adults have cryptocurrency and 63% have pensions or something. So it is ridiculous. We've gone through this crazy sort of bull market and loads of people made a load of money. Sorry, a few people made a load of money, a load of people lost a load of money. Yeah, I keep a rough eye on it like I keep a rough eye on all the other weird and wacky stuff that gets invented just to throw it into the, avoid anything that's working now bucket, and we stick to things which have always worked. But you're right. If a client needs a release and they've got to buy some tiny something just to, keep up with the Joneses or the people down the golf club, then knock yourself out. Obviously, you're not providing advice. You say, yeah, crack on. But I think Nick's reached his boiling point with this one, so we'll move on. But great point, Alan. Great point. Thanks for bringing that up.
Right.
Yeah, okay. Don't ask Nick. Just move on.
I have nothing but to add. It's anathema to me. Pension simplification in 2006. It's a cliche to say it seems so long ago that it almost never happened. And I read a note from the formerly respected brand called Standard Life, who sent out these quite good technical briefings about tax-free cash around pensions, and it is now so complicated for a certain small segment of our population, but it is so complicated. I think it's almost wicked. I know we say it's really good that things are complicated because if things were simple, clients wouldn't need us, and that's true. They need us for our technical expertise. Most of our value, I think, comes from behaviour modification and keeping people sticking to the plan. You don't need technical expertise for that. But yeah, if everything was straightforward and vanilla, people would have less need to see a financial advisor. But the rules around this now are just so, it's almost, and when I say wicked, I don't mean wicked in the cool sense that the youth might say. I mean wicked as in bloody wicked. I'll give an example. This would be quite dull, I think, so you slate me by all means, but I'm going to make this point by reading this out. Scheme-specific tax-free cash protection. The formula is open brackets, the 5th of April 2006 tax-free cash times 1.8 million divided by 1.5 million, close brackets, plus 25% of times open bracket retirement fund minus open brackets 5th of April 2006 fund times current lifetime allowance divided by 1.5 million, close two brackets. And the latest finance bill simplifies that slightly to just being about 14 different brackets. I mean, and
could you just run through that again, Nick? Could you just run through that equation again?
I couldn't even say it, could I, smoothly? Anyway, I don't know. There's something wrong with our system where you can where these things could be so. And I think it would be a really positive thing just to up it all and just say, you know what, get rid of all this crap. Yes, some people are going to benefit. They'll have a double dip on their tax-free cash or what have you. It's a tiny slither. This stuff is so complicated. I just think it's wrong. I think it's immoral. There you go. Just letting you know. So
we're on the road to simplification here in Ireland, and it is actually working. Although it's kind of like you got to suffer a little bit of time of complexity to get to the simplification, which I suppose is difficult sometimes for clients to get their heads around. But we have a much more simple calculation in terms of lump sums. The first 200 grand is tax free, and the next 300 grand is at the standard rate of tax. So it's lovely. It's like, their lifetime allowances. They're talking about maybe increasing the standard fund threshold from the current 2 million over to go kind of back towards the 5 million that it was at. But yeah, I think to be fair, the Irish system has a really good pension system, and there's been an awful lot of work over the last 25 years, probably at this stage, to, I suppose, give the pension freedoms that you guys have had over the last couple of years. And it's definitely going down two roads where you'll be in either a master trust or what we call a PRSA. And that's good. And the more, if people can get their heads around it, I think they'll be a little bit more engaged. So the simpler it is, the better. So yeah, it's but that cocktail you just described there, Nick, sounds absolutely ridiculous. Like that makes no sense to anybody.
And the thing is, it's driven by civil service swanks who have their lovely final salary pensions applying these laws to us money purchase plebs. That's the other thing that grates as well.
Yeah, I think. And the reason, by the way, that we're talking about potentially increasing the standard fund threshold in Ireland is because the civil servants, when the high earning civil servants, when they get to the end, because they're on DB pensions, you have to put a value on it, and they're finding themselves in excess of the 2 million. That is why the minister has announced a review of the SFT. There you go.
Isn't it judges in the UK, Nick, that have the most, the best DB system? It's like 1/15 or something.
But I think they've got a separate carve out in legislation. I know Keir Starmer has. There's a bit of Keir Starmer legislation. It's called the Keir Starmer. It's just like so blatant.
Turkey's voting for Christmas. It's unbelievable.
It's so blatant, trolling the rest of us. We'll just make our own little rules, but you lot can just
we'll just carve it out so it doesn't apply.
It is what it is. It is what it is.
But Nick, aren't there calculators that exist that you could just sort of plug in your details, name your client details, fund value, etc., and it's just a calculation, isn't it? It's just a chuck it in.
Yeah, but it's just a point.
There'll be spreadsheets. There'll be spreadsheets.
There'll be spreadsheets. But even so, why do you need a spreadsheet? To make it that complicated, you need an Excel spreadsheet with macros enabled. Otherwise, it's just like, come on.
We used to have a system whereby
you've lost me with macros enabled.
For say,
whoa.
Company directors. You had to have there was revenue maximums you could put in, and it depended on your existing fund value, your age, and your salary, and lots of other stuff. And they've just scrapped it all. They said, right, put in whatever you want into a PRSA. Brilliant. Much more simple. And yes, there are high earners who are sitting on a lot of money in companies, and they're going to benefit. But let's not throw the baby out with the bathwater here. If it's simple for everybody and everybody knows, and a few people at the higher end are going to benefit, well, good luck to them. But everybody else is in a much more simple system that if the simpler it gets, the more engaged people are going to be. Simple as that.
Well said, and well done for the Irish and their continuing cultural differences.
And they'll also see that I was deeply uncomfortable with the content of some of today's podcast, owing to the Irish versus UK cultural differences.
Okay.
The last time we sang that was at the World Cup match when Ireland beat Scotland. And bizarrely, guys, Andy Farrell has been named Manager of the Year here in Ireland. Well, that's a bit mad. But anyway.
Was that little other competition?
Yeah, who else was up for it? International manager.
All right, okay.
Okay, Christmas gifts, Smithy. Bring it back before we descend.
Yes, obviously this is going out at this time of the year. I just wondered, I haven't spoken to you guys about this before. I just wondered what, if anything, you do around kind of clients and Christmas gifts. And I say this from a background of, first of all, as you know, my other half is Scandinavian. She's Swedish. They don't have the concepts of Christmas cards, for example. Don't know Christmas cards. And I've always thought Christmas cards are a bit of a waste of time. Actually, you send them out and you scribble a note on it. And so for years, we haven't sent out any Christmas cards. And now we used to get loads coming back, but I'm sure everyone else noticed, they don't send us a card. So bit by bit, you get blackballed. But I'm talking about friends and family. So now we neither send Christmas cards nor receive them. But from a business and a corporate viewpoint, some years ago in our firm, we used to, for clients paying fees above a certain level, we brought a threshold, we would buy it was a small hamper from Fortnum & Mason. And it cost about 50 quid, right? But it looked much more. The packaging was absolutely, world class, beautiful. We'd have it delivered to people's homes, and it's basically a bottle of champagne and some sort of high end chocolates, but in a nice box, a little drawer you pulled out. And I always thought for clients paying you, pretty significant sums, that was a bargain for us to send it out just to sort of say Merry Christmas and enjoy the break, etc. But then it just began to be just sort of lots of issues and problems. Some clients were away for Christmas, didn't receive it. It was delivered to next door neighbors. Some received it and then didn't know who it was from because the note wasn't put on properly. Some received it and said, "Look, we're fine. You don't need to bother. Don't bother sending it." And there was a sentiment of us kind of being overly grateful to them being clients. Do you know what I mean? Instead of just sometimes, it's a mutually beneficial arrangement. We deliver great value. They effectively pay us for the value. So why are you paying anything else? So we had a kind of mixed experience over several years. So we stopped doing it. We just sort of pulled the plug on doing these Christmas gifts. And then we had a bunch of people saying, oh, we don't get our Christmas gift. I always look forward to that every year. So I wish we hadn't sort of started in the first place. I just thought, kicking it around amongst the group here, what, if anything, do you guys do to either to acknowledge, reward, thank, or just, this time of year, Christmas gifts or otherwise? What do you do, Andy?
A good point, Alan. Thanks for raising it. I do the same. I do the same every year. I send all of my active clients a Hotel Chocolat Christmas box. I think it costs about 30 quid. It's nicely packed, nicely packed, etc. With a gift note. I also send it to
Diabetic Diane and Diabetic Day. You get that as well, do they?
Is mine as a client of yours, Andy? Is mine on the way? Because I haven't got it yet.
I mean, proper clients, financial planning clients. If I had to send it to financial advisor clients, I'd be bankrupt.
See. We don't matter. Okay.
So I sent them over the last couple of weeks. I send about 50 boxes. I started doing it since I set up Maven Advisor. And you're right, Alan, clients expect it. One year, I think they delivered them quite late. And my best client, she called me up and said, are you sending the chocolates this year? I said, don't worry, they're on their way. And she liked them so much. She had an operation, and she said to me, can you send a box of those chocolates to the guy that's just done his operation on it? So I got myself into a whole heap of mess. But anyway, that's what I do. I send a box of Hotel Chocolat chocolates. And it goes down really well. Yeah, I keep it simple. It's not overly expensive, but it obviously, it costs a few quid to send 50 boxes. But I enjoy doing it. It's a nice touch. But yeah,
we don't send cards. We don't send gifts. We used to, but now we just make a donation to a charity, and we tell our clients that's what we're doing. Because I'm not sure, Alan. I think Christmas cards may be kind of just a thing of the past, because I don't see any or many coming in here. Not getting any at home either, but that's probably because I'm the same as you. So I haven't sent a Christmas card in many, many years. Yeah. So it's probably not been reciprocated. But yeah, I just like the idea of, look, we've had a good year. We're going to make a donation, proper donation to a charity. And we tell our clients that's what we're going to do. And it's not right or wrong. That's what we do.
Nick, what do you do? Nothing.
Christmas, nothing at all.
So I'm the only one who sends clients Christmas gifts. Interesting.
I send birthday cards. I'm sure you know, I've got to send this. I do send birthday cards to all my clients, and if they have life events, then I'll send them a bottle of champagne. So moving house or business promotion, something or business sale, that kind of thing. I just think at Christmas time, everybody gets some. There's so much stuff going out there. It kind of just gets lost in the mix. So I'd rather do it.
I think you're right. We do that as well. We do. I think it varies between advisors. Some advisors send birthday cards to every single client. Some do it for big birthdays, as they say, 50, 60, 70, whatever. And we will generally on those ones, on the big birthdays, again, send a bottle of champagne, or we'll send a bunch of flowers, bit of both. I think all these things good. They do go down really well. And you're absolutely right. As you get older, Nick, I can tell you, being the oldest here, you get less and less birthday cards, less and less acknowledgement. That your birthday comes and goes. No one knows. But as you say, Christmas is just busy, and there's just loads of things flying around. So you focus on birthdays, I think, if you're going to do anything. Andy?
If we're talking about gifts, a superb thing that I've done over the years, I must have sent at least 20 of these. There's a website called Historical Newspapers. So I send clients on their big birthdays, 5 and 0. So 55, 60, 65, 70. I send them usually the times, if it's available, the day that they were born. I've also done it to myself. So I got the times of the day I was born sent to myself. And brilliantly, I'm born on a Sunday, so the newspaper's enormous. I did a whole podcast on it, actually. I'm just about to send a client who's 60 on the 23rd of December, the times on the day that he was born. It's a brilliant gift. It's the best gift they get. It's a big birthday. They get loads of crap from everyone. And then this beautiful box arrives. They're like, what the hell is this? And it's like the newspaper the day they were born. So they spend all day reading it. It's definitely worth doing it. So if you want to do it for your clients, it's called historicalnewspapers.co.uk. It's a great site. So yeah, check it out.
That's
a
great.
brilliant
Love
idea.
that.
Whoever thought of that? Whoever thought that as a birthday present idea was fantastic. Okay, given that a damn good thrashing, I think that's it for topical tidbits, isn't it, gentlemen? Yes, it is, Nick. Okay, let's, in that case, move on to the meat and potatoes of episode 35 of the Real Advisor podcast. And this is the third of 3 episodes we've done on the back. So even my simple math tells me that's episodes 33, 34, and 35 around the subject of marketing. And this final episode of the 3, the third leg of the stool, is about content strategy and the results that we have got from it. All of us on Trap, all of the 3 musketeers here, 4 musketeers, we all do content creation to different levels. Some of us do more than others. Who's going to lead off on this? I think we're going to lead off with Mr. Hart, who is renowned in the profession for the amount of stuff that he knocks out. Mr. Hart.
It's very kind of you, Nick. Yes, this is about, I suppose, digital content we're talking about, so I thought we'd just lay out what's involved here. The obvious ones, things like blogs, articles, essays, newspapers, videos, visuals, podcasts as well. So this is an example of content marketing. Obviously, we're sort of finding our feet with it. We're just over a year into it now, and lots of things have come as a result of doing it, and it's often not clear at the beginning what they will be. I ran another podcast, Maven Money. I did 300 episodes. I pretty much discussed everything you could possibly do with money on that stuff. I'm quite prolific on LinkedIn, on X, on Twitter. Is he going to play the drop? So that's a starter. So it is very, very important. You still need to do the old school stuff, referrals, networking, showing up and doing good work. But then obviously these days, everyone is scrolling constantly on their phones, on their iPads, on their computers. I run Humans Under Management, which is obviously a physical brand in terms of conferences, but it has a sort of digital offering via Humans Under Management Premium. So I'm very prolific posting stuff on LinkedIn. It is very important. And I've said before, any content endeavor, whatever that may be for you, you should think 30 months before you get any traction. Too many people start things and stop things because they don't get enough sort of results from it. Like I've been doing this YouTube channel for 9 months and nothing happened. It's like, well, no, you've got to commit ideally to 30 months to begin with, which is 2.5 years. We've got lucky with Trap because quite a few of us have got, an audience already. So we've got traction a bit sooner than, let's say, 30 months. But still, we need to give this a good crack for 30 months and sort of, practice what we preach. So, that's the opening of it. Who's next?
Will I go next? Because I think I need to defer here to Mr. Hart and Mr. Smith, whose content creation is absolutely smashing it out of the park. So I've done a good bit on X. I've done a good bit on LinkedIn, but it's very sporadic. So I'm definitely not playing to the rule, the 2.5 year rule. And I find when I get really busy, I just leave it off, which is probably the time that I need to up my game. So that's 2024 is going to be about trying to bring some consistency to that. We have done a couple of, I'm holding up one of the guides that we've done here. And, we've asked people to download them off the website, or we have hard copies as well. That's actually been really successful for us. Stuff like 10 tips to take care of your future while you're taking care of your business. So aimed at business owners, that kind of stuff. I think we've 4 different guides at the moment. They take a lot of effort, so that you can't put out BS. You gotta be careful in that it's engaging, that the title of the guide is something that kind of grabs. Oh yeah, that's where I'm at, so that's what I'm going to download. But I think 2024 we're going to definitely be upping our game in terms of our content. And driving stuff out via, say, LinkedIn and Twitter. But I'm always amazed at the commitment and the consistency that both Andy and Alan have in terms of their social media strategy. So this is a piece I think I'm going to just shut up and I'm going to learn now as to exactly how you get the success that you've got, because I know that this delivers results for both of you.
Smithy.
Yes, it's a good subject, relevant subject, and it's a huge subject. So I'll just share my own. I think we have talked about this a little bit in the past. I'll bring you up to date with my experiences and importantly, perhaps results. Nick, you and I went on a writing course coming up 2 years ago. We started it January 2022, Ship 30 for 30. That was the trigger for me because it compelled me, and you did it as well, Nick, to create something every day for 30 days. And it's all, as they say, if you do that, that's habit forming. If you do anything, whether it's, exercise or whatever, meditate 30 days consistently, it seems to kind of rewire your brain a little bit. And that's what worked for me somewhat. Prior to that, I was very sporadic around writing stuff on social media and kind of pathetic, really, the little messages and the traditional photograph of what you had for lunch or something, completely irrelevant. But the whole Ship 30 thing was quite a catalyst for me because I began to understand, because digital content creation is so different to so many other ways of writing or creating. We consume information differently digitally. We basically scroll. No one's really reading things like they read a book. So, and there's all sorts of tips and tricks, which I won't go into here. If anyone's interested, there's a ton of stuff available on the Ship 30 website and their YouTube channel. Little things about how to hook the first line that you write is really important. Use of bullet points, use of formatting and spacing, all that sort of stuff. And I forget half of it, and I'm not really as consistent as I should be. But however, that was a starting point of creating content. Now, what's the purpose of it? For me, it's multiple. Undoubtedly, part of this is to kind of be, it's a bit of a bullshit term, but you know what I mean. Thought leadership. All it is sharing thoughts, ideas, and inspirations that I've had. I consume a lot. I read a lot of stuff, and I share my take on it. The other thing it forces you to do by creating content publicly is you need to understand your subject reasonably well, because you're not going to post something. So sometimes I'll do a summary of a podcast I've listened to or something, and I want to be able to ensure if I take my notes, I want to make sure that I know I'm confident about the information. There's so much on social media. People post stuff which is just, it's nonsense. It's not thoughtful. It's not been thought through. So it allows you to do that. So, wide subject. I agree with Andy. As a result of that, sometime after, about 6 months after doing that writing course, I launched my own podcast, the award-winning Bulletproof Entrepreneur, started by it. What are you laughing at? It's true. It has. We won an award. The
5-star Bulletproof.
Yeah, 4.9 star.
4.9 star. Sorry.
Almost 5 star. Just that one star, which threw me off track. Now, so there's not the platforms that I'm active on, like Andy, I think is LinkedIn, Twitter /X, and this podcast. And it is an ecosystem. One is not better than the other. But it was Andy who told me, if you're going to start anything, you've got to commit to it. With the podcast, I think you said commit to 100 episodes minimum. 100, Nicholas, not 99.
Oh, that's where I went wrong.
So you went wrong. So commit to 100. I think I'm about 40 something at the moment. So I'll keep going with that. And it is part of an ecosystem. Sometimes you work out, well, how did somebody find us? Was it a LinkedIn post? And one thing leads to another. Somebody sees something, they can check out something else, and then they go and follow other information you've shared. Now, as I say, there is a specific strategy and there's a specific art, and I've had to learn to be more effective. To your point, Carl, we're all busy. We can't be sitting, on social media all day. So use of scheduling tools. I have used Hootsuite, for example, and I'll try to schedule things. Often on a Sunday, I'll write 3 or 4 or 5 things, and I'll have them sort of drop into the various platforms on a scheduled time throughout the week. So it appears that I'm sort of proactive and on it, and I'm not quite as much. So it takes a bit of thought, takes a bit of practice, takes a bit of organization. Now, that's all well and good, but what are the results? One, I've kind of, I feel like raised my profile. Probably more people know about. Lots of opportunities have come my way. Some are good, some are less good. And you end up having to say no to quite a few things because there's a lot of people who want to pick your brain, as they say, or any other number of other ways of just getting involved because of some of the stuff I posted. But in reality, if definitely one of the most important reasons is business generation. new client opportunities, new partnerships, everything else. Looking at the numbers, we've had a good year this year. We will have had our most successful year ever. We'll have the most sort of revenue, most profitability. Content in its thank you so much.
Heartfelt, Alan. Well done, Alan. Really good stuff, Alan.
Yeah, congratulations,
Thank you.
Alan.
Thank you.
That
I'd like to thank you guys. I wouldn't have done it without you. I don't know. This cannot last. The point being, we have content creation is our second most important source of new business. Referrals actually remain, client referrals remain our single most important. However, I can see that changing next year. I can think this sort of content creation will become our single biggest source of new business generation, new clients, and new opportunities. And I'll sort of stop there.
Okay, I've got a couple of other things to throw in the mix. Scheduling or scheduling is key. Trap's an example. It's in the diary. 2024, we've got 26 episodes to do. We're committed. It's the similar with the other stuff I do, Humans Under Management Advisor newsletter. It's monthly, so I'm committed. It needs to be done. You need to force yourself to do it. So having a schedule is key. There's a good book on this, a guy called Stephen Pressfield. The greatest book ever is called The War of Art. I recommend you read it. It's really thin. Have it as a bit of a Christmas read. He's also got another book called Turning Pro. I love his writing. Him and Nick
I think you
Murray.
mention him every episode, don't you?
There's no
Pretty
problem
much.
with that, is there, Alan? We can repeat
No,
stories.
it's brilliant. I'm glad it helps. It helps when you repeat.
You are the king. You are the king story regurgitator. Anyway,
thank you. I appreciate your positive feedback.
Talk about wins. I mean, Maven
41
Money.
minutes. It is still a record, though.
Maven.
So well done, everybody.
Goodwill to all men. It's sickening, isn't it? Anyway, go on, Andy.
All right, Karen. So I'm going to carry on. Maven Money breached 1 million downloads, which is a pretty big target on the podcast space. Yeah, back to Alan's point. The more content you put out there, the more opportunities come. We don't know exactly what they're going to be, but just stuff happens. Sort of increasing your luck surface area or whatever you want to call it. And also, you should be somewhat embarrassed of your early content. It means if you're not embarrassed of your early content, it means you launched too late. I put some terrible stuff out there over the years. I mean, it's not offensive or anything. It's just sort of, bad mics, bad lighting, badly worded essays or whatever. And obviously you just get better and better at it. Here's a quote that's going to sort of grate with Nick. I've grown up in public.
Get ready with a drop.
I've grown up in public in this business, and I'll continue to do that. Anyway, any other final points?
Was that the quote? Oh, it's just, as you say, Andy, it's the same as this podcast, Trap. It's so polished and professional now, and we're so respectful to each other. Some of those early episodes, when the smoke alarm's going off in the background, or the
exactly. We should be embarrassed.
Carl's heavy breathing throughout the whole thing. Or
I'm coughing
whatever.
the entire time. Yeah. It's a bit rough around the edges.
Now it's wonderful. It's so professional.
Well, you've finally learned how to connect your mic to your computer. For the first 8 episodes, you had the mic in front of you, but you were using the computer mic. Anyway, it's totally fine to make some small mistakes like that, Alan. That's how we learn.
Exactly right. I appreciate that, Andy. There is a good, I think I shared it with you guys. There's a good podcast out. Let me just see if I've got it. Steve Sandusky. Some of you guys know Steve Sandusky.
Yeah.
Produces a podcast. I can't remember exactly what it's called, but worth looking at. We probably can post a link to this in the show notes. But just the last one, it's just out a couple of weeks ago. He interviews this young financial planner in America, obviously. And this guy just started his own YouTube channel. And he basically unpacks exactly how he does it. He records, I think, 10 to 15 minutes YouTube, films, whatever you call it, YouTube clips, shorts, whatever. And he records them kind of all at once. He batch records them. He did pretty basic stuff. He does them in his home, in his bedroom, and somebody films it. And he tells you exactly how he does it and speaks to camera, etc. And I can't remember what the numbers are, but he is getting just hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of new business inquiries. I think you said he's added about 150 million of assets, or 120 million of assets, dollars, in the last 12 months alone, just as almost everything from this YouTube channel. And again, he explained that the first few were absolutely terrible. He's got a system now, he's got a program, and he's absolutely flying. And the other thing I suppose that's relevant to this when you create content, anyone in theory from anywhere in the world can read it or consume it. But so as it pertains to our work in this kind of modern digital kind of remote Zoom type world that we live in, it's perfectly reasonable to take on a client who lives the other side of the country that you will actually never meet in person. Whereas the old version was you kind of were looking at your local, literally your geographical area, hence the needs for people used to take out adverts in the local paper and stuff. It's all kind of gone now. So if somebody in Edinburgh just reads your blog and loves it, then you can engage with them, which is a useful benefit as well. Andy?
Well, I mean, yeah, a good example of that is obviously Pete Matthews. He's in Penzance, which is in the the arse end of nowhere. It's still 3 hours once you get into Cornwall to Penzance. But obviously he's been able to take on clients everywhere. A bit of a humble brag, Humans Under Management Premium, we've got members from 13 countries around the world. I mean, that's ridiculous. Me sitting in my little chicken shed in Hatch End and then getting subscribers from like Norway and Singapore. I mean, it's all from basically LinkedIn. So LinkedIn's a huge, huge, huge base for me now. That might not be the same for advisors looking for clients, let's say, but it's all still part of that sort of digital presence. It's insane.
And let's not
world,
forget.
Yeah.
Let's not forget, Andy, that this very podcast, the Real Advisor podcast,
goes
was the number one podcast, the number one in Mauritius.
Who could forget?
And we're
was
still waiting.
Was that my close personal friend Terry Smith listening, or?
Yeah, it must have been. And we are still waiting for the invite to go out there and do a live and in-person event in Mauritius to all our listeners out there. Okay, what else? Nick, you've been quiet, but you're fairly prolific, although
I do. Yeah, mine's a slightly different slant. Just to say, by the way, I'm very, and this is not part of the Kumbaya loving and the Christmas episode and the Goodwood to Men thing. I am very much respect the content that you three put out. Carl, your guides are great, and there's obviously a lot of work does go into them. And Andy, you're renowned for what you do. And Alan, take one example of what you do, Alan. The threads on I won't call it X. The threads you do on Twitter are always very well composed, and it's a credit to your children. They can compose them and write them so well on your behalf.
Thank you.
I do content, don't I? I'm a bit more flippant, and I'm very direct, and I'm a bit, perhaps more acerbic than some of Alan and certainly Carl can be. I do my newsletter once a quarter, and I'm not even sure. I mean, I've got about 400 people who subscribe to it. Now, how many of them actually read the thing? I could check on MailChimp. I don't want to check. I don't really care. And I put this out once a quarter. And for me, it's the art of actually writing stuff helps me just get my thoughts organized. I really do the newsletter for myself, just to get my head around concepts and to just do some research, find the figures, back up my, find, like most things, you go into it and you've got an argument already in your head, and then you find stuff that backs up the argument, and you can find stuff that backs up the argument. Equities are brilliant. Inflation is wrong. Mainstream media is an absolute millstone around your neck if you follow any of it, and most of the people in it are clueless. And it just helps me organise my thought process. But it also means I have got a whole library of articles now that I can just reference to client. I keep a spreadsheet of everything I've written, and I tag it so I know, that article's on that also on that, and I can send it to clients or prospects. And because my newsletter's on Squarespace, you can actually put a hyperlink in. So although it's a big, long scrolling page, you can go straight to Article 3 and send that to clients. It's just putting up a resume of information that's hot. In my case, I know I take it to the extremes of my sort of, in quotes, jokes and my political comments, but it is very highly personalized because, I, as you guys do, I believe what clients see is what they must get, right? You can't put it on a sort of a carapace. You can't maintain two personalities. That you've got to be yourself all the time, and for some people that's going to repel, and some people that's going to attract. And so I make my content when I do it very much about me, and as I say, I've got a few hundred people reading my newsletter. I've probably got a few 100,000 people who are never going to come near me because of my newsletter, and that's
fine.
Million,
Nick. A few million.
A few million, indeed. So that's But I do it mainly for personal self-improvement. That's why I do the content. And just talking, I just want to kind of segueing off a bit, but marketing. My marketing thing is about referrals. And that's where I get all my clients from. And after we finished doing today's recording of Trap, I've got, whatever you want to call it, a discovery meeting with prospects. And long story short, in 2008-9, I took on a couple. I won't give away their names. Let's call them D and I, couple coming into retirement. Since then, D has referred his son to me and his wife. He's also referred his daughter to me and her husband. Now, the son and wife that he referred to me, they referred me on to another couple. So it's like a referral off a referral called P and S. And P and S have just referred another couple to me, who I'm meeting with today online for this discovery meeting. And it just cascades down. And all of these people mix in the same milieu. Their children go to the same schools. That's how they met. But the thing is, people mixes with like. And this is the power. If you do a good job, I did a good job for D and I back in 2008-9. He's given me his children. They in turn have given me their close friends. And on it goes and on it goes. And it's just this ripple of it if you do a good job. But they all, they're all the people, all the earners in those relationships are all on six figures. Some of them start with 3 and 4 once you factor in bonuses and so forth. So they're really good people. They're bright, they're smart, they want to save for their future selves. And they're all coming to me saying, Nick Lincoln's done this for us. We like him. And because we're friends with you, we'll think you'll like him as well because we all have the same set personality traits. So
I wonder how they introduce you, Nick. Do they say anything like, he's a little bit of a character, you've got to sort of take him with a pinch of salt. But he's a good guy, he knows his stuff. He might appear a bit wacky, but...
That's a good. When we come on to which we might do in a minute because we're at 50 minutes. When we come on to the Trappist questions, one of the questions, the question that's asked of us is what questions do we ask clients in meetings? And one of the questions I always, to get the conversation going, I say, okay, you've been referred to me by D and I. In your words, what did they tell you about what I've done for them? And then just shut up. And then they're going to say, oh, you did the graph, you did the chart, you did this lifestyle thing.
Yeah,
pensions, it might be pensions.
Tax.
But, just open, get them to talk to you in their words, and then you can use their words back to them. That's a very good way of pretending you're empathetic. Okay,
hang on. Just to bring this, just to put a bow on this, as we say, and
I wish
bring
Carl
this
was unmuted. Sorry, Carl, we're missing your lovely bloody laugh, mate. I think we could do this more heavy breathing.
That's good.
I got that little joke, pretending I was empathetic.
Now, where was the
spent his
joke?
whole life doing that.
I thought you said that wasn't a joke.
He's been doing that since 1965.
Just to bring that back to the subject matter, which was this is the third of 3 on business growth and marketing and focusing and leveraging the power of content creation in whatever format you use. Interesting, Nick, I would not be surprised if your newsletter, for example, as a consistent example of your sort of thought leadership, content creation, wouldn't be, it might be shared around. So that D and I might ping it across the link to once they receive it to their friends, families, colleagues. Some of them may say, oh, this is horrible. I don't like it. And some will say, oh, I like the way he writes. I like his thought process. In other words, it's another calling card that exists out there in the world that people can sort of delve into without the need necessarily to make a phone call. That reaching out, making an initial phone call or email and first meeting, first contact is quite a big step for people. So I want to get used to what this sort of cut of the person's jib is. So content creation in whatever format you do, particularly... It represents you as an individual, your kind of outlook on life, and therefore it's either going to be engaging or not. And the last thing I want to say on this, and I want to leave the audience with some practical tools. The art of content creation, particularly if you're using social media platforms, beginning to understand how the algorithms work and how you can leverage them to your advantage as opposed to being a victim of them. I've mentioned already, if someone's serious about this, invest the time, invest the money, and learn. Check out the Ship 30 for 30 course. And the other one, which is specifically around LinkedIn, which I've done, is a guy called Justin Welsh, Welsh. He's got a program, I can't remember, it's about $300 or something. And it's just the art and science of being successful in LinkedIn. And this guy he's a solo operator working from he's a chicken shed in Idaho or something. And he's doing $1 million a year and more because he's really understood the power and the impact of LinkedIn.
He's doing shed loads, Alan. He's doing like 5 million as a solo.
Yeah, something like that. So he's doing a lot.
He's my
hero. If
hero.
you're serious about it, spend the time, spend the money, engage in it, and good luck to you all. Let us know how you get on. Okay.
Fantastic. I think we've given that loads of value there over the last 3 episodes on the whole subject of marketing. And I'm sure we'll revisit this because these things change. This is a very fluid subject, isn't it? Just the tech changes. Things we can do now, we couldn't do 10 years ago, 15 years ago. Loom, everything that we can, the way we can reach out to people in different ways. It's amazing. It will be all different again in 5 years' time. It really will. Okay, without any further ado, then I suggest that we move on to the next section of the show, because at the doorbell is my post lady, who is not ringing. The doorbell must not be working. That's what I can think, because it's not making the noise, which is inconvenient. Never mind. We shall plough on. It might kick in a minute. Halfway through me rambling. Well, now I'm going to the doorbell, but the doorbell. That's very good. That's very good. I might refresh. If I refresh, yeah, right. Jesus, wept.
Are your drops not working today, Nick?
No, they were, but now
there
they're
were
frozen.
so many opportunities.
Brilliant.
They've frozen.
When Ultra was talking about how prolific he was and how amazing he is,
Prolific.
I thought I was
I'm
waiting
a prolific
for it,
content creator, just like you're a worker, Alan.
shambles.
You're a total and
I'm a
utter worker.
Worker, correct.
So I've got an absolute shambles.
Absolute shambles. Well, that one works.
But postman at the door's not working. Okay, never mind. So the postie is here, and the first question is from... Who is it from? Let's see if we can find out who it is from. It is from...
Paul Cleworth.
Okay, Paul Cleworth, or Cleworth. Paul is a friend of the show, good chap, one of the UK's most switched-on advisors, and I think we're seeing him next week, aren't we, at our lunch club rendezvous. Paul's on Twitter at Paul Cleworth, or Cleworth, and also on LinkedIn, and I'll put his details in the show notes. Okay, he asked us, what are the best questions you can ask a new prospective client to get them to open up and elaborate about themselves, their circumstances, and their finances? What techniques do you use to develop the conversation, to wow them, and to sell them on your services? I know what I ask my clients, but I'm interested in all four horsemen's thoughts, because great questions lead to great answers. That is true. Newer advisors can have all the qualifications and confidence in the world, but they must learn the art of asking great questions, the art of selling, and how to build the value. Mr. Smith does want to lead off on this. I can see you twitching, Andy. So go on, get
Sorry,
it.
we saw Paul yesterday, Nick, at the York and Albany.
No, we're seeing him later on this week. When listeners,
saw him yesterday.
We, the listeners. Yeah,
We saw him yesterday. It was a great day.
No one cares, Andy. No one cares.
Okay,
so listen, let me
shambles.
Let me lead off on this.
Carl's having a breakdown. Sorry, go on.
Let me tell you a little story about this and how some of the mistakes.
Grab yourself a drink, a very long drink. It's story time with Alan Smith.
It's annoying.
Water everywhere. Thank you. Yes, this is a huge subject. I think we've spoken about this before somewhat. And again, as you said earlier on, Nick, there's some of these subjects are perennial. They'll keep coming up. They're evergreen and they evolve and they change. So when I went on this famous course, CEG Worldwide, I think these kind of Americans that came over to London and told us all how to be successful because they were coaches to the elite financial planners of the United States. But there was some absolute gems within it, which we still use. So this is where the original kind of discovery meeting questions came from, because up until that point, we were asking what I would call fact find questions. Tell me about your assets, your liabilities, your income, your expenditure. And they said to us, no, you've got to ask people, go deeper, ask them about their life, their background, their history, all those sort of softer questions. And I quite liked it. And we had a list of 64 questions, and they just said, just ask them. I mean, some of them were just a little bit left field. For example, asking about pets. Tell us about your pets. What are your pets' names? What's the relationship with the family? One of the questions was, do you know anybody famous? That was a question. And there was a lot of science behind it. They could identify. They were putting people into different categories, and it would therefore kind of it would inform your future communication style with that client. But that all got a little bit bloody complicated. So, but we did focus on, out of the 64, there was a dozen or so which were really good questions. And we started just to use them because they said, this is a company out of California, and Californians, I think, approach things somewhat differently to the kind of stiff upper lip Brit and some of the questions. But they said, just do it. Don't ask questions, just do it. Your clients love it. And we did. And to be fair, a lot of clients did love it. But one story I always remember, we were introduced to a new prospective client, and this guy was, again, like some of our clients are kind of, how can I put it? So a real go-getter, entrepreneur, very successful guy, started his own business, was making a load of money, and had issues around his kind of pension challenges. anyway, we set up this meeting, a colleague and I, to do our discovery meeting. And I just remember the conditions were, it was pissing down with rain outside. It was dark. It was about November time. It was really dark outside. The weather was horrible. And the meeting was at 9 a.m. on a Monday morning. So that's never a beautiful time or day or experience to have this sort of conversation. No. But we go ahead with it anyway. And I opened the questioning. I said, nice to meet you. Thanks for coming in. Let me start by asking you the first question. And the first question was, and I've spoken about another example. This is a different one. I just remember this experience, and I still have shudders thinking about it, because I just opened up with this question, which we've all got versions of it, but we were told this is what people want to talk about. Question number 1: what does money mean to you? What does money mean to you? And then that leads from the guys going, what the hell? Where are we going with this? And then the second question was, tell me, what was money like in your family when you were growing up? And it just felt just really, really awkward. And he was sort of saying, and he did his best to answer it. But the moral of this story is there's two parts to the story. One, you can ask the softer questions, but the order in which you ask them is really, really important. You've also got to you've got to frame it before you start launching into it. You've got to say, look, we're going to ask you a number of questions. We're absolutely going to get to the key issues and challenges that you've got. This guy just had a pension-related issue that he felt we'd come in and solve. And we make it clear that we're going to, and we say, we're going to ask you a number of questions, one or two of which might seem a little bit odd, but it's all really important as part of our kind of, understanding you and what makes you tick, and in order that we can deliver high-quality advice. So a reasonable question to open with is just simply, tell me your story. Tell me your background, tell me your story, what brings you to be here today. The important thing about that is it gets the client or the prospective client talking, because everyone can talk about that till the cows come home. And the other thing, I can't remember if I mentioned this before, but something very specifically that we learned from these people and we continue to do to this day is where you've got a couple, a husband and wife. The initial question is you should be asking them, and you simply state without any sort of preconceived thoughts. In most families, one of the couple tends to take the lead on the family finances, family bank accounts, paying bills, etc. May I ask which of the two of you is it? In my experience, without being sexist, historically, the majority, not always, but the majority has been the male, the husband. And therefore, you very specifically say, well, that's good to know. If I may, can I start with you, Mrs. X, wife? Because you want to get everyone involved in the conversation early on. Historically, we've had conversations, and the husband starts talking, doesn't stop talking for 20 minutes, and then the other half feels less engaged in the conversation. So those are a couple of things, but start with the softer questions. Tell me about your story, and then you can go into the other ones. So the order in which you do it, frame it, set it up, but also just be careful about the time of day, the time of year, the weather, everything else, because sometimes people are just not ready for a really fluffy type conversation. Andrew.
Thank you for sharing that story, Alan. I haven't heard it 16 times. I'm going to keep this quite short.
By the way, that's a different story.
Oh, no, it's fine. No, thank you for sharing
That's a different story. That's different.
So, yeah, I keep it quite simple. I go into these sort of meetings with clients thinking, just having a conversation with friends. I keep it quite simple. I open up with how can I help? And then we just see it and where it goes. I asked
I've got that written down. That's how can I help? That's one of the ones I was going to do. Yeah, sorry, crack on.
Thank you, Nick. Thank you for rudely interrupting me.
No, thank you for bringing my question up.
Thank you for being here today. And then so back to Alan's point, I say, who's the CMO? I say, who's the CMO here? Who's the chief money officer in the house? And then they look at each other and they sort of decide. Yeah, you're right. It's an interesting one to open up with. Yeah, I just try and keep it simple. I don't be too contrived. I don't have like a list of questions. I have tried different things over the years. I think now I just go into it wanting to have a conversation and see where it leads rather than having sort of a set script. But I mean, Paul knows this better than anyone. He's a superb advisor. But yeah, thanks for the question. Over to you, Carl.
Yeah, kind of like what Alan said, right? I think asking someone what's your story, or like just straight off the bat, is you got to position it. So when we're, I suppose, talking to I hate the word prospects, but people who are not yet clients of ours, right? We'll talk. It's hard, isn't it, to describe exactly what the financial planning process is. So it's like, okay, this is the type of thing we do, and you might give them examples or whatever. But nobody gets in to do have a proper chat with us if they don't, first of all, complete the getting to know you questionnaire, as we call it, right? And so that's the traditional old fact find bit in the middle. But the precursor is, I have it here in front of me, exactly like Alan, you must have stolen this from me. So the first question is, what is your story, your earliest memory when it comes to money? Love this one, right? This is really important because this will position where you need to go with the clients. What's your experience of financial advisors to date? Imagine yourself 3 years from now. What makes this relationship a success?
These are all completely stolen from me, Carl, aren't they? This is all part of our,
We share information, Alan.
Share. That's it.
There's nothing new under the sun, gentlemen. Don't get too up yourselves.
I was going to say that's a Dan Sullivan question, the R question, I believe. Yeah.
What do you like to do in your spare time? So you're trying to get it behind, what do they do? I don't like the Kinder questions. I think they're way too bloody morbid, right? So once we've asked those at the outset, then it's like the tell us all about your money. And then at the end, it's like, what are your top 3 financial planning requirements or your money requirements? And then the last one is, if money was no issue, tell us what you do. Right, so so we position it at the beginning and then at the end, and that tells them before they come into us, this is not going to be like any other discussion you've had before. This is going to be different. But they're the only questions that we have. That's in our getting to know you, and that positions how the discussion is going to evolve. That's what we do. We've tweaked them over the years. That's where we're at right now.
We're back to the world of it's an art and a science. There's several different things going on here. I think at the end of the day, we're just trying to open a relationship, aren't we? As they say, we're not trying to close a sale. We're trying to open a relationship. but that's true. We're trying to build rapport. We're trying to create rapport. And one of the best ways that's scientifically proven of creating rapport is by asking people questions and listening intently to their response. So you just want to do things where. And being human, because we've all got this again. We mentioned it before, the curse of knowledge. We do it in our sleep. We've been doing it for years. We meet clients. People come in, there's a lot of researchers. There's people coming to meet a financial advisor often for the first time, or if they've been to see another one who's a bit more of an old school, money manager type thing. It's just a bit uncomfortable. It's a bit awkward. And what if they find me out? What if they realize I haven't been managing my personal finances very well? I might be shamed or embarrassed. So we just the art of asking questions, apart from to elicit some ideas and information from, it's just to open a relationship and create rapport through asking questions that they will find very easy to answer. So they're not technical questions. And the other thing I just want to throw in conclusion for this is, I was speaking to another friend of the podcast, certainly a well-known advisor to all of us, Steve Martin. And Steve, who runs I don't know if he's still doing it. He certainly was running a kind of a training program for advisors, young advisors. And he just gave me some feedback. And this is not to be disrespectful in any way to any of the advisors that have been in the program, but he was saying that a lot of younger advisors who were going through his program they almost had the questions, like you said, on a questionnaire, Carl. And they would go, Mr. and Mrs. Prospect, so tell me, what was money like for you and your family growing up? As if it was, tell me your address or your national insurance number. And the person would give them the answer. Oh, it was really difficult. Or we didn't have a pot to piss in, blah, blah. And they go, thank you very much. Tick. Right, next. Tell me, what does money mean to you? And, do you know?
Any health problems? Yeah, terminal cancer. Okay.
Yeah. Okay.
What's money like growing up?
Do you have any pets?
Yeah. No. Okay.
No.
Yeah. I've got a pet giraffe. I've got a giraffe and a monkey. Okay, next.
Just
the point is, and he's stating the bleeding obvious, and I said, surely people don't do that, Steve. And he says, yeah, these are well-intentioned people, but they've been handed a set of tools which ask clients meaningful questions. And this is where the art comes into it, because it's actually quite difficult. You might, we used to go into this armed with a load of questions, but they'll tell you something, and all of a sudden the next 5 questions are irrelevant. right? And so you've got to be really on your game. You've got to be able to shape the conversation. You've got to be listening intently. I don't know about you, when I've done those meetings and they're 2 hours long, I'm bloody exhausted by the end of them.
Yeah.
Because I've all sort of, my brain is trying to manage a number of different things going on at the same time. So you don't just ask the questions, listen very carefully, and then shape the next direction of the conversation.
Okay, thank you. Andy?
Before I have a discovery meeting with any client, they fill in my online discovery form. I know it's obviously not as good as live questioning, of course not, but I'll just give you what the questions are. So the opening question is, how did you hear about us? Did someone recommend us? That again is quite open. The next question is, how can we help? The next question is, what is your main financial concern at the moment? The next question, which is super important, is, have you worked with a financial advisor before? If so, how did that go? And that is a very, very insightful question for us financial advisors.
Carl's pointing to himself as if that's a question. I've asked that question for years. There's
And
nothing
then the final couple of questions are.
Did I not just go through all these questions about 4 minutes ago?
Let me carry on.
Anyway,
we're letting each other
well
speak.
done, Andrew.
We're letting each other speak this. Alan,
We need kumbaya
Enough from you.
Kumbaya. We need it.
I haven't got it.
My next question is, what are you looking for in a financial advisor? My next question is, do you? This is an important one for financial planners. My next question is, do you currently have a written pound-specific financial life plan? That's teeing them up for this is what we do. And then my final question is, what are your hobbies, interests, or passions? That's it.
so all the same as what I read out. there
You
a
are
few
the
minutes
chief
ago.
cloner. You are the chief cloner, Carl. You are very good at cloning, my friend. Also known as
I only take the good bits, though.
stealing.
Filter out all that.
Back to you, Chairman.
Okay, Paul Clueth, I hope you've got some value out of that and amongst that rubble. Yes, so I think we'll just have the one Trappist question this episode, gents, and that's okay because we're 1 hour, 10 minutes in. If you want to submit a question to us, please do. There's the link in the pinned tweet at the top of our Twitter profile. Also on our brand new, spanking, shining new website, therealadvisorpodcast.com. You can submit questions there. Also on there, you can register your interest for what many people are calling the live event of 2024, Trap Live, May the 9th, venue to be determined if they ever bloody well get back to one of us. But please do look at that and let us know if you're interested. I think we should move on. Oh, by the way, and we're only August with these questions, so we are going through the hopper slowly. Next up is Guy Skinner. You've got quite a detailed question, Guy, which we'll address in the next episode, but we will plough through them. Okay, let's try and seamlessly go on to Culture Corner. I've got no idea if this drop will work, so I'll press the thing now. If there's an awkward silence.
Absolute shambles.
Absolute shambles, mate, isn't it? Riverside, come on, get your thing in order. Okay, let's go to Culture Corner. And the first one is Mr. Smith and GEM, which spells Gem.
Gem. Say it as you wish. I've got two Culture Corners. They're both they're almost diametrically opposite, but both are absolutely worth consuming, watching. Gem, GEM, which is on Amazon Prime. It's just over 1 hour. It's a stand-up. It's a guy, it's an Aussie guy called Hugh van der Kulenberg, who had never heard of before. I don't know what encouraged me to watch this or see the video, but I did last week, and it's fabulous. And actually, it's just highly relevant this time of year. We've all got maybe a little bit more time on our hands, maybe a little bit more reflective and looking back in the previous year and thinking ahead. It's. All I will say is it allows you, the GEM, it stands for gratitude, empathy, and mindfulness. And it sounds a little, I can see Nick's eyes rolling and just shaking his head. It's for everyone except for Nick Lincoln, who's already the epitome of empathy and mindfulness and gratitude. Yeah, it's just really nice. And he just tells a load of stories. He talks about this, talks about sport, and these examples and real life things that this guy has experienced, worth an hour of your time, of anyone's time. The other, as I say, almost the sort of direct opposite, is something I just watched at the weekend going past, is the new thing, is the Jeff Bezos interview with Lex Friedman on the Lex Friedman podcast, which I watched on YouTube. It's about 2 hours long. Jeff Bezos almost never does podcasts, interviews, conversations. This is for anyone in business or anyone attempting ever to be in business. This is a masterclass. Amazon are just they are, what do you call it, Andrew? Would you steal it from somewhere else? They've commoditized miracles. The fact you can click something on your phone and the next day or within hours something is delivered. And everything that they do from their Kindle to their Amazon Web Services is just an extraordinary operation. And Jeff, along with Elon Musk, is undoubtedly one of the sort of one or two best entrepreneurs of the last 100 years or so. And he unpacks basically his secrets to success. So Jeff Bezos on the Lex Friedman podcast, well worth your time.
It's really,
Thank you very much.
It's really, really good. Yeah, it's about 2.5 hours long. Yeah, it goes into a lot of detail about a lot of stuff. It's I highly recommend it. Really good recommendation, Alan.
Okay, I might give that. I find Lex Friedman hard work, but given you guys have boosted it up, I'm going to give it. I'm going to try the culture. I refreshed. Let's just see if this works. Oh, there is balance restored to the force. Okay, so
Thank
who's
God.
next to Culture Corner? It is me. Trillions, a book by Robin Wigglesworth. I always want to call him Wrigglesworth, but it's Wigglesworth, and this is on the rise of the indexing movement, which as we know is just now massive and dominates. And I read a book this year by Charlie Ellis, The Story of the Vanguard. And I found that quite a dull read. Trillions, by comparison, I'm loving it. I haven't finished it yet, but I am actually reading it. Okay, so I can get that into Culture Corner.
Ooh.
And it's got a lot. It goes back way back to the sort of 18th and 19th century. How these early academics were looking at the Paris stock market and thinking, there's something funny, there's something going on here. This random walk thing. The prices do appear around. So it's a lot of historical context, but it brings in everybody in the field. So you've got Rex Sinquefield, you've got French and Farmer, you've obviously got Bogle, and it's a really, really interesting read and written in a really nice style. And so I recommend that as a link to the. I'm doing it on Kindle, by the way, and it's a good thing to consume via Kindle. And there's a link to it in the show notes. Also in the show notes, I know that on your award-winning podcast, Alan.
Thank you.
Bulletproof
4.9.
Entrepreneur, that you
4.9.
had Robin as a guest on Series 2, Episode 3. So I've even put a link into that episode in the show.
You are
show
so
notes.
kind. Is that your Christmas gift to me?
That is my Christmas gift to you,
I
my friend.
really appreciate it. Robin is a close personal friend of mine. Come on. He is. He's a lovely guy. I've met him several times. Interesting fact. Robin Wigglesworth. What nationality is he?
Canadian.
Sounds could not be more
Norwegian.
English. Norwegian, exactly
Norwegian.
right. Another potential client of Metis Norway. What's this about
that's a
Norway?
segue.
Anyway, no,
He's our chairman.
anyway, yeah, he's
into
from
it now.
Oslo. Robin Wigglesworth. Another sort of just to back that up. Robin is the editor of the Alphaville section of the Financial Times, and that is the only section of Financial Times which is free to anyone. You don't have to subscribe. It's not paywall controlled, and it's very kind of irreverent, shall we say. They write a lot of just fun, interesting stories about the world of finance. So do check out Alphaville at FT, edited by Robin Wigglesworth. But good shout, Nick. Thank you.
Okay, great stuff. I'll just quickly close. My podcast app that I use is Pocket Cast, and I pay the annual subscription. It was £10 a year. I got a notification coming through from them. I know we're living in high inflation times, but that £10 a year is going up to £40 a year, give or take. And it's funny it's a good example of framing, isn't it? Because in the scheme of things, £40 is not really here or there. But the fact it's a fourfold increase has really got under my skin.
Nick,
So I
what do
just
you
cancelled the
get for
subscription.
Pocket Cast Pro, Nick? I don't know if I've got it or not. I use Pocket Cast, but I don't know if I've got the Pro version or
you
not.
just get the ability that you can download and store files on your
Well,
phone.
I must have the Pro version then. I must have the Pro version. So
Yeah.
it's coming up. It's going to increase for
You
me
don't
then
get
as
a
well.
lot. So Alan uses the free version. He's happy with it. I've gone back to so
Yeah.
they've
Oh,
asked
Alan's
they were
super
getting
tight.
£10 from me. I would happily pay £10, £12, £15 forever. In line broadly with inflation. But to go from 10 to 40, I've cancelled this. They're not getting the 40. They're not getting the 10 anymore either. So Clear Score app, Mr. Hart.
Yes, so I don't think I've spoken about this before. It's an app that tracks your credit score. It's free, so I recommend you as an advisor download it and use it. And then any clients that you have that don't quite know what their credit score is or whatever, it's brilliant. It's superb app. It's got loads of detail behind it. It shows you all of your accounts. It shows you total value of your mortgages, total value of your credit cards. It's brilliant. So if you want a credit score app that's sort of free, unless they change the price in the future, then I recommend you download it and obviously mention it to your clients. Also, final point is, I mentioned it earlier in the question, Nick.
No, just a point. I somehow got the perfect score, didn't I? I had 1,000.
Oh, you got 1,000 out of 1,000. Yeah, a mate of mine sent me a
It
screen.
has slightly gone down.
A mate of mine sent me a screenshot the other day that he also had 1,000. I think my brother's got 1,000 as well. Mine's a little bit lower because of my recent personal circumstances, moving house and various things going on. But I'm
Divorcing,
still successful divorcee. Yeah, I'm still at about 800 out of 1,000, Nick. So I'm still credit worthy.
I'm not sure I can. I can't really associate with you, Andy. You get up to the 900s and we can start speaking.
Sorry. My final point, I mentioned it earlier in the show, but I put a link in the so-called show notes. It's called Historical Newspapers. The website is historic-newspapers.co.uk. Brilliant, worth checking out. And just a bit more detail around that. You can buy the paper for like 30 or 40 quid. You can get it in a premium box for about 45 quid. And you can throw in a bottle of wine as well if you wish to. So they've got it all sorted. It's well packaged, and it's amazing what they do. So yeah, do check it out. Special gifts for clients, let's call it.
Yeah, great. That's such a great idea. Okay, the final culture corner is from Della Volce, who wanted to go last. Voice, wow us.
Yeah, this game of life can be tricky sometimes, and this time of the year is great and it's brilliant, and I'm really looking forward to spending the time with my kids. But not everyone is that lucky all of the time, and I think we all got to be cognizant that you never know what people are going through. The best investment I have ever made for myself is the Insight Timer app, which is basically 70 quid a year, and you get like thousands and thousands of meditations. And I think I've mentioned her before, but I'm a little bit obsessed with a lady who does meditations called Sarah Blondin, and I've put a link to one called Accepting Change. So this Christmas time, if you're having a few issues, because it's not happy for everyone all the time, because that'd be just bloody unrealistic, I recommend that you do yourself a favor. Take yourself away for 10 minutes, download that particular meditation and listen to it. And it might take you several goes to get into meditation if you're not in it already. But it is really good, and it will definitely help calm your nervous system. And I just like to say thank you to everybody who has downloaded this podcast. Thank you for the words of support. Wishing everybody a really, really happy and very, very peaceful Christmas. And good luck and good night. I'll see you all in the new year.
I would echo that. Yeah, thank you everybody for listening. Merry Christmas. We're going to come back next year with 26 fresh shows. The sort of show is maturing, but yeah, thank you very much for giving us.
Is it?
I'm not sure about the last
minutes
part,
of your precious time. It means a lot that you're listening. Over to you, Alan.
Yeah, I agree. Endorse everything that's been said. What is particularly good about this is building a community. That's the point, building a community. As Nick often says in the podcast, this is not about us just disseminating our thoughts and wisdom. There's a lot of feedback, and we get questions, we get community. Really looking forward to the live event next year, as Nick says, if we can find a bloody venue.
9th of May.
We will. We'll sort it out, even if we bloody stand in a field or a pub or something. We'll get it organised. And that to me is just the most powerful part of this all. No one's got a unique sort of approach to ideas. We've all got ideas, by bouncing them off amongst each other and sharing with the community, we all get better as a result. So again, from me and from all of us, thank you very much for being part of our journey. Really look forward to engaging next year.
Over to you, Chairman.
Fantastic stuff. Yeah, fantastic stuff. I echo all that. We're closing in on 100,000 downloads. It's been an amazing ride so far. 35 episodes in. Thank you so much for your kind words. Whenever we meet or interact with any of the Trappists, it's just staggering to me, certainly. Just want to say thank you, and wishing you all a very happy Christmas and a fantastic 2024. I think that is a wrap for this episode. If you want to leave a review, please do so on iTunes. You know the score, 6 out of 5. Don't muck around, don't be stingy. It's time of giving, right? So now give a really good review. And make sure you subscribe. And then every Thursday, in the early hours, you'll get a new baked loaf of trap on your phone or device of choice. It's there. Also, like and subscribe on YouTube. We've now got about 600 people, I think, on YouTube, which is quite hard work. That's quite a significant number. So thank you very much. Thank you. Have a good one. Take care out there. Adios, over and out, and see you on the other side, through the mother-in-laws, through the Brussels sprouts, through the bloody turkey. Goodbye. Get out of my computer, all of you.
Happy Christmas.
Bye-bye. Well done for not swearing in that episode, lads.
Yeah.
Well, I was about to... Sorry.